And we're going to start talking about our left wing situation going in to the weekend. Obviously, Chelsea Monday night. HG, do you think it's time for Brennan Johnson to be given a go now?
Yes. I mean, we hear about Ange talking about how the attacking hasn't really got there yet. I think that would help us to get better when we're attacking. So we certainly need to have something different. Both the goals came down the wings in the second half on Friday. It just feels as if teams are going to try and keep it narrow against us, and so we need to use the wings better, and that means a bit more pace and a bit more width. Richarlison, as much as he tries, just isn't doing it.
Barnaby, do you feel the same? Is it time to drop Richarlison to the bench, bring Brennan Johnson in?
So it's an interesting one. I did a match review this week, and I said I didn't think it would be long before Brennan Johnson was starting. I'm basing that on the fact that he brought him straight in for the Arsenal game, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then he got injured in that game. What I would say is, and this is specifically with Chelsea coming up, I do feel like Richarlison is the kind of guy you want to play against Chelsea. It's a big game, home game. I think it's going to be one of the biggest games. I'm gonna go all out. I think it's going to be one of the biggest games in our history, because I think Poch coming back and us wanting to kind of show him that he shouldn't have gone to Chelsea is going to make the crowd so atmospheric and so big. And I'm just wondering whether Big Ange might look at it and say, who do we want on the pitch in that day that maybe will wind up the Chelsea players, but also thrive off a crowd like that? He's Brazil's number 9. And I also think, so by which I mean he has experience of this kind of stuff. But what I also think is that he has done much better on the left than he did at number 9 for us. And it shouldn't be forgotten some of those assists that he made, the outside of the boot across to Sonny for Liverpool in the Liverpool game, sorry. And I just have a feeling maybe he'll stay definitely for the Chelsea game, but not long after that, it wouldn't surprise me if Brennan Johnson is brought in to start, unless, of course, Richarlison scores or does something brilliant in that game.
Yeah, it is an interesting one, because I do think Richarlison has been improving, but I don't think he's improved enough to warrant his a start against Chelsea, to be honest. And I think Brennan Johnson, for me, has shown a lot more in the small spaces of time he's been on the pitch than Richarlison has probably in his whole Spurs career so far. What's your thoughts?
I wouldn't go that far, but I would say that Brennan Johnson has definitely been bright in his performances. He had a very good cameo against Palace with a really nice assist, and obviously against Arsenal missed a couple of chances, but again was involved, was very bright. I agree with Barnaby when it comes to Richarlison showing improvement, but then again it was a very low bar at the beginning of the season. Let's be honest. In the first few games, he was absolutely terrible, and I'm one of Richarlison's biggest advocates. I would say, in terms of, I was a massive fan of the signing. I was really excited about him coming to Spurs, and I've been always one to kind of when people have been criticising him, backing him up, but it has got to the stage where even when he's playing well, he's still giving the ball away way too much, and he's still very frustrating, and the quality does seem to be lacking, albeit he is, in the recent weeks, he's been contributing a bit more. Obviously, there's Sheffield United goal and assist. As Barnaby said, got an assist against Fulham, assist against Liverpool. So he's definitely upped his contribution a bit. But still, in game, I think there was that one moment against Fulham where we're 2-0 up, an easy ball gets played out to him out wide, and he does this stupid control with his back, and he gives it away and sets Fulham up on a counter-attack, and Postecoglou looked very frustrated at that, and he's been doing these kind of things throughout his Spurs career, but I would say this season, a few times I think he's needlessly given the ball away. So there's one thing giving the ball away by like trying to create an opportunity, or trying to, sometimes Maddison will look for a defence splitting pass or go for a shot and he'll give the ball away. I don't mind that too much, but it seems like Richarlison a lot of the time is needlessly giving the ball away. We're not even attempting things just because of his lack of quality, lack of ability to control a football, lack of ability to pull off a simple pass. That has been very frustrating for me so far in his whole Spurs career.
I think I'm not disagreeing. I'm not going to disagree with you. But what I would say is, I think a lot of people's opinions on stuff like that is based on the fact that he's not scoring goals as well. So he's lost his confidence. He's not scoring goals. And therefore, so for instance, the example I would use is that, I'm pretty sure it was the Fulham Monday game.
Yeah.
That ball came across from the right and he hit it first time, and it was just a whisker past the post. And I think he did everything technically correct there. And I think that was a classic, what I'd call a classic Richarlison finish, in that I've got friends and family who are Everton fans, and they say he works best off the left and he loves that finish into the far corner side foot. If that goes the other side of the post, I don't think anybody's talking about the fact that he loses the ball every so often. Because even when Sonny was playing out wide left for us, Sonny, unless it's instinctive and a ball's being fizzed at him, his touch can sometimes let him go, and his back to goal play is quite average, I'd say. But the fact that usually he's scoring lots of goals for us means we don't talk about that, and we're not talking about any of that this season, but last season we really were. So I do think, and the fact we paid 60 million means that he should be scoring goals. The moment he starts scoring goals, I think we will stop talking about that and we'll all be totally behind him. So it's about a confidence thing, and I guess how long Big Ange will give him to get that confidence back.
I completely agree with that. But that's the problem. He's got two Premier League goals since he's come to Spurs. And he is one of these players, when he's not scoring, he's a bit of a liability on the ball. That is a big problem. See, I don't have the same criticism for Kulusevski, even though, again, I think Richarlison might have more goal contributions than Kulusevski this season. But I don't have the same criticism because I see Kulusevski doing the simple things correctly and doing a very good job for the team. He's not losing the ball needlessly like Richarlison is. He isn't failing to easily control a ball when in an easy situation. He's not just giving the ball away willy-nilly. He's got great ball retention. He's quite good at driving the ball forward, and he does a very good job for the team. I think Richarlison is a hard worker, don't get me wrong. I think he does do a good job off the ball, but there's a frustrating lack of quality that he's been showing. And yes, if he is this, but I was asked this question before the Palace game, would I drop Richarlison? I said no, because of the reason you just gave. He's contributing. I think he had 4 goal contributions in the last 6 games. And as long as he's contributing, I'm happy for him to be in the team. But when he puts in performances, maybe like against Palace, where that contribution is diminishing, and then all of a sudden what are you left with? You're left with a guy giving the ball away constantly. And I think Brennan Johnson maybe deserves a go, I think, on Monday night.
I think, again, to be fair to Richarlison, like, none of us really think that left wing in Ange's system is his best position, right? Like, I mean, I don't think that either, which is why Richarlison started at centre forward in the first game of the season. It feels as if for the last few games he's been the best available. Like, I'm pretty certain that Perisic would have started had he been fit, and so now Johnson is
probably Solomon as well.
Fit and there you go, right? So it's tough to blame Richarlison. I don't really blame him, but it felt like, especially Friday night at Palace, we didn't have Udogie either down the left-hand side, and so I think Palace were quite happy to allow the ball to go to him. They weren't worried about Richarlison's first-time balls round the corner because there wasn't really anyone making those runs anymore. It just feels as if Spurs really want to be the best they can be with the players that they have, then I think that Johnson or someone should be playing left wing ahead of Richarlison. But, I mean, as Barnaby said, it's Chelsea at home. Reece James is going to start. He's probably their best right-back, certainly one of their best players. So I would be a bit nervous about Reece James down the right-hand side, and maybe Richarlison is better equipped to deal with whatever threat he brings. But I just, if I'm thinking about Spurs and what we can, maximising the potential of our players, then I don't think Richarlison at left wing should ever really happen if others are fit. It just seems a fudge.
I like the dynamic of Richarlison coming off the bench. I mean, we saw what value it can have in the Sheffield United game. Obviously came on, got a goal and an assist to win us the game in the dying minutes. But with the kind of praise maybe that Richarlison's getting in recent weeks, maybe not in the Crystal Palace game, but definitely post the last international break where his performances have been getting better. Do you think, HG, that he's been held to maybe a different standard than maybe other players in the squad because of how poor he actually was last season?
I mean, a different standard. I think Spurs fans just want to see players playing well. They might have reasons as to why it is or isn't working, but I think if Spurs fans see that someone isn't contributing or isn't really doing what they think they could, or then they're going to want to see a change. I don't think there's different standards being applied. No.
Do you think that?
I think there's a slightly different standard, but he's being held account to because of the £60 million. That's what the standard is that people are expecting from him. I think, in terms of saying he's not contributing, I would disagree on the basis that he's working so hard up and down, as does Decky Kulusevski. That is the minimum requirement, of course. But bear in mind, we've also still got another player on our books who costs £60 million, who literally won't do that. And that's why he's sent on loan every year, and that's Tanguy Ndombele. So look,
apparently he's coming back.
I did see something today, I don't know. But anyway, so he's doing the minimum requirement. He's just out of confidence. And unfortunately, that's not helping him at the moment. Of course not. But actually, it's interesting you said that about him not being the right person on the left. Like I said, my my friends and family who are Everton fans have been saying to me throughout, he's not a natural 9. He works best off the left, and that's where he does his best goal scoring and finishing. Now, what I would agree with, does that mean he's the right player on the left as a left forward in the Ange system where he wants people to get in behind? Probably not. And Brennan Johnson would offer us more there. But going back to what you said, HG, about Reece James, I wonder if the physicality of Richarlison might be something that Ange looks at against Chelsea. But then also, just to contradict that and forever play devil's advocate, like Ange wants to be thinking about going forward all the time and what we can do going forward. So in that instance, if he's thinking like that, then maybe he will go with Brennan Johnson.
And also,
I'm not even sure Reece James is going to play though. Like Poch said, he's going to play tonight in the cup, and after such a long injury or a injury, is he really going to play 2 games in the space of the week? I question that.
But it's also important to note that Brennan's first start came in the North London derby, so it's like clearly Ange trusts him in a big game, you know, to do that kind of role, and he did obviously a very good role. So I don't think Ange is going to be looking at it thinking, do I trust Brennan? I think he's going to be thinking about it, who do I think is best fit for that game necessarily, not rather like who do I trust to deal with Chelsea kind of thing. Because clearly, if he's going to put him in against Arsenal, he'll put him in against anyone. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Look, to be honest, I think there'll be space for us. So I think Brennan Johnson has that raw pace that can attack that space that maybe they'll leave with their attacking system. Sorry, Barnaby.
What I was going to say is just maybe he thought that Brennan Johnson getting at Ben White was a good opportunity. But then I would also say, like, the excitement level now is so high that actually I'm excited because I know whatever decision Ange makes, it'll be the right one.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it all comes down to.
We can end the episode here, right?
Exactly. Whatever Ange says is the right decision. But I think for us, I think both of us are both in agreement that Brennan Johnson should play. HG, you're the same, aren't you?
The fact that it's Chelsea, it does worry me a little bit, because even though they're bad at home, their away record isn't that bad, really, Chelsea, this season. So it's all about, you know, what are we worried about? Are we worried about them, or are we worried about being the best we can be? I think if we're worried about us, then Johnson should probably start, because I do think we're better when we play with more width and we play with people who are comfortable to be out there. Richarlison in that system just doesn't seem to really know what he wants to do or what he's being asked to do, and that's a problem. We saw that all of last season with Conte's tactics. If the players, doesn't matter how good they are, if they don't feel comfortable doing it, they're going to struggle. And so it feels as if, considering the way that we want to play, having Richarlison come off the bench or be the central striker is his best role. But yeah, like, what do I think is going to happen? I think Richarlison will start. I don't think Ange is going to switch it. But whether I want it to happen, yeah, I'm kind of like Barnaby. I don't really mind regardless, but I think that I certainly want Udogie over Davies or someone else at left back.
I think that one goes without saying, HG. I think that one goes without saying.
But that would help the rest of the team. I mean, that's 100%. The thing, right? Like, if it is Davies, I mean, I was at Palace on Friday night, and I didn't think Davies did badly in the first half. He was making the right runs, but people weren't finding him. And so it's not to say that he can't do what Udogie does, but it's just, I do think that affects Richarlison ahead of them. I really do.
Barnaby,
can I just say, I think, and I don't know whether Ange will think like this, but he probably will because he's a legend. But, you know, I think there's a chance that Richarlison could shithouse their way to get someone sent off for Chelsea with the atmosphere on Monday night. I mean, equally, there's a possibility he could get himself sent off. But I think there's more chance that he will wind them up enough. He knows those big games. And I wonder if Ange will think like that. But similar to HG, like, either thing could happen, and I don't mind.
Fair enough.